Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our hand and dexterity class. Today is week 3 of our class series, which means that next Tuesday will be our final class. Hopefully you've all enjoyed the class so far. The previous class recordings have been uploaded onto our YouTube channel, which is Parkinson Society BC, all in one word, if you are interested in re-looking at some of those exercises. Just like before, today's class will be recorded as well and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and hopefully by this time next week. So that way, if you missed anything or if you wanted to practice the exercises again, you are welcome to do so on the YouTube channel. This is our hand and dexterity class, which means that we are going to be doing the class in seated. And I normally have a table in front of me. You don't have to, but you're welcome to have a table in front of you as well, which might make some of the exercises a little easier to do. Also, ideally, you want to be sitting in a chair without any armrests, just so that way you don't end up hitting your arms on anything. The equipment you're going to need today, you will be needing a tea towel of some kind. So I got my tea towel here. Nothing too big, so not a bath towel, ideally a tea towel. You're going to need a small cushion of some kind. Doesn't really matter about the size, I suppose, for the cushion, but if it's smaller, it'll be a little bit easier to hold on to. So some kind of a cushion. And then you will also be needing a cup. So I've got a paper cup here that I'm using, and you're going to need some pegs. So I've got 5 pegs. All you really need is 5. You can have a little less, you can have a little more, doesn't matter, but ideally 4 to 5 is good. And we'll have that aside for our exercises later. And then for our handwriting practice today, you will be needing a piece of paper with some margins drawn on them. So this is a normal line piece of paper that I took. So you can see that there's normal lines underneath. And what I did was I took 3 lines and I made them one gigantic line. So last time when we did the handwriting practice, we had 4. So this is from last time. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 lines that made up one gigantic margin. Whereas today, we are making it smaller. So we're doing 3 lines into one big margin. So hopefully you have that ready. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to move back a little bit so you can see me. Now, remember, if you have any questions throughout the class, you are welcome to type in the chat box. I will be able to see it because I'm quite close to the computer. But of course, if you prefer not to type your question and you want to ask via voice, you are welcome to use the raise hand function. And then at which point I can unmute your microphone and you are welcome to ask questions over voice if you like. Or if you don't want to ask in the group setting, that's okay as well. You are welcome to email me afterwards or give me a call and we can talk about any questions you may have. Okay, let's get started. All right, I'm sitting back a little bit. I'll move the screen down. Okay, so sitting up nice and tall in your chair. So from the side, you're sitting nice and tall. We're not leaning back like this, right? You want to sit up nice and tall at the fronts of your chairs. Just let those arms hang, and we're going to start with some shoulder rolls. So rolling those shoulders back in a circle, up towards the earlobes, then back, and repeat. Nice big roll, sitting up nice and tall as you're doing this. And then we're going to add in the elbows, circling with those elbows as big as you feel you're able to, sitting up nice and tall. And then now we're going to circle the entire arm backwards. Now, if you can't quite get all the way up, that's okay. You can go down here as well. Just do a range that works for you today. Really emphasize on the sitting nice and tall, trying not to lean back into your chair or slouch against something. Sitting up nice and tall, use those tummy muscles, get yourself up nice and tall. And then let's reverse. We're circling all the way forward. Long necks if you can, shoulders away from the ears. And then the elbows circling forward. And then the shoulders circling forward. Okay, we're gonna clasp the hands together like so. And then you're gonna draw some figures of 8 with your wrists. Try not to let the elbows do this. We're keeping the elbows down as much as we can. Yes, they will move a little bit, but hopefully we're not like this. Just the wrists if you can, drawing the figures of 8. Doesn't have to be fast. You can do it slower as well if you like. Does not have to match my speed per se, as long as you're drawing nice big figures of 8. Okay, we're gonna reach one arm forward like so, and we're gonna do our sensory work now. So you're gonna start with your other hand. Remember from last week, we're patting up all the way up the arm towards the shoulder and then down towards the fingertips. Again, just drawing some attention to the arm as we're doing this, waking up those nerve endings a little bit, getting us ready to use the hands later. Nice gentle pats. We're not going to be smacking our arm very hard. We're not hurting ourselves. Nice light pats, please. And then we're going to flip the arm over and do the same thing on the other side. Nice light pats. Doesn't have to be quick. You're welcome to go slower as well. Just waking up those nerve endings, drawing our brain's attention to the side. And then we're gonna start by the fingertips and we're gonna squeeze all the way up our arm towards the shoulder, getting as much surface area as you can as you're doing the squeezing up and then back down again. Getting every bit of skin if you can. Don't forget about the thumb, the palm, the fingers. Nicely done. And then we're gonna switch sides. Other arm, same thing. We're gonna start with those light pats all the way up the arm, from the fingertips all the way to the shoulder. Nice light, gentle pats. Waking up those nerve endings, drawing your brain's attention to the side. And then we're gonna flip over, same thing on the other side of the arm. Nice light pats, don't forget about those fingertips. Covering as much surface area as you possibly can. Good, and then we're gonna start at the fingertips. Nice squeezes all the way up the arm. Getting every surface area you possibly can. All the way up to the shoulders, and then squeezing all the way down. Remember, it doesn't have to be fast. You're welcome to do it slower. Just get as much surface area as you possibly can. Good, and rest the arms. Okay, I'm gonna come forward a little bit. Hands, nice warm up for the hands. We're just going to open and close. Nothing too forceful. We're just squeezing and opening, nice and gentle. And then seeing if you can make the movement a little bigger with every squeeze, a little bigger with every squeeze, eventually being able to stretch your fingers as wide as possible. Get as much stretch on the skin as you can. 5 more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Adding in the arms, starting with your hands and fists by the armpits. We're going to push the arms forward, stretching out as wide as we can. And then we're going to grab and pull back in. Try that again. Push, really open those fingers as wide as you can. And then we're going to pull back in. So we're going push and a pull. Let's go for 5, 4, almost like you're flicking paint. 3, off of your arms. 2, last 1. And rest. Okay, so I've got a table here in front of me that I'm going to be using. Now, if you don't have a table, you're welcome to use your lap, your armrest if you're sitting on a chair with armrest, but it might be a little bit easier if you have some sort of a table in the front, just so that way you can rest your elbows. Of course, you can hold your arms up without the table, but it might get a little tiring. So you're welcome to rest your elbows down. Okay, first exercise we're gonna do is our finger thumb opposition. So we start like this with the hand wide open. So similar to what we did last time, wide open. And then what we're gonna do here is try and keep all the fingers as wide as possible and as straight as possible. We're going to take our index finger and we're gonna tap it to our thumb 1 time like this, without the other fingers curling in or squeezing in. Keep them wide, open back up. And then we're going to tap the middle finger to the thumb 2 times like this, 1, 2. Your fingers will move a bit, but try not to let them curl in. Now your ring finger to your thumb 3 times, 1, 2, 3, open back up. Little finger to thumb 4 times, 2, 3, 4, open back up. And then we do the exact same thing in reverse. Little finger to the thumb 1 time like this, 1. Try not to let the fingers curl in, keep them wide. Ring finger to thumb 2 times, 1, 2, middle finger to thumb 3 times, 1, 2, 3, index finger to thumb 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you keep repeating that. So you probably remember this from last week, yes? So if you have this movement down, you are welcome to go a little bit faster today, as long as we're not doing this. If you're like this, you need to slow it down. This doesn't count. This is not the movement we want. We want the movement to be as big of a range as possible, spreading those fingers nice and wide. Okay, you thought that was it. So this is the movement that we're doing, but we are adding a cognitive task on top of that as well today, because we're progressing every week. We want things to get harder, so I can't let you off that easy. Okay, so this is a movement. You can join me here with the movement. Now, while we're doing this movement today, I want you to say out loud as many cities as you can think of, starting from the letter A down the alphabet. So, for example, the letter A, city or state, country, whatever you can think of. So, for example, A, I might say Alaska, for example. B, I might say British Columbia. C, I may say something else. So you want to go from A all the way down to Z if you can. And then once you've gone all the way down to Z, I want you to reverse it from Z all the way back up to A to see if you can think of something else that you haven't thought of already. Okay, so join me here. I definitely think I messed up with the counting of my finger just now as I was explaining. Too much talking from my part. But get started. So I won't say anything because I don't want to distract you, but I want you to say out loud as many cities, countries, states, provinces, whatever you can think of, geography-wise, from the letter A all the way back down to Z, and then all the way back up to A again. Don't forget the fingers. Spread them wide. Don't let them get smaller. Remember, you're doing your 1, 2, 3, 4 taps and then reverse. Make sure your thumb is opening back up, right? We're not keeping the thumb in. Open them back up every time. Open. How are we doing? Keep the hand open, remember. Don't let the fingers curl in. Nicely done. Keep going. Keep saying out loud those cities, countries, states, provinces. And let's rest there for a second. Shake out those hands. Give them a little wiggle. Shake out the fingers. You can rub them if you need. Okay, what do we think about that one? Do we hate that one? Well, there's more coming your way, so don't you worry. There's more. Okay, so next exercise, I'm still resting my elbows on the table. And this is the exercise we did last time as well. So we start squeezing those fingers in first. So noticing that my hand is nice and flat. You want to imagine that you're pressing your hands up against a shop window and you're looking in the shop window. So it's that idea of having the hand completely flat against something. Okay, all the fingers are nice and long, nice and straight, and they're all squeezing in together, no gaps anywhere. And what we're going to do here is we're going to open the first web space like this. Once. Then we're going to open the next space over 2 times. 1, 2. Noticing my fingers are all squeezing together except for the space that I'm choosing to open. Next space over 3 times like this. 1, 2, 3. Can you see that all my fingers are squeezing together except for the space that I'm choosing to open? Then the last space 4 times like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we reverse. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Okay, that's the movement. So we have the hand completely flat. Don't let the thumb come in. Don't let the fingers separate. And we'll end up doing this. We want to squeeze them in. So join me here with the movement, and then I'll tell you what the cognitive task you're doing today is. So as you're doing this movement, remember, it doesn't have to be fast per se. You don't have to do it at my speed. Or if my speed is too slow, you're welcome to go faster, only if you've got the technique. So if you're like this, slow it down, okay? Now, as you're doing this movement today, your cognitive task is going to be naming out loud as many fruits and vegetables you can think of, starting from the letter A all the way down to Z. Just like before, if you're really great and you make it all the way down to Z, well, then the challenge is for you to go back up from Z to A, so in reverse, thinking about new fruits and vegetables you haven't already thought of. Make sense? Okay, off we go. I'll try not to talk to not distract you. Keep the thumb straight if you can. Don't let it cave in. Keep it out. Flat hand. How are we doing? If the hand is way too hard for you to do, keep going. If it's way too hard for you to do, you're welcome to place your hand onto a table. And you are welcome to do the same thing, sliding along the table, which might be a little bit easier. So it's up to you. You don't have to do that. You're welcome to if you like. Another minute. Okay, shake out the hands. Open and close your fingers, wiggle them, press them together, massage them, whatever you need to do to shake it out a little bit. Does get quite tiring, pretty quick actually. Okay, our next exercise, we're going to grab hold of our tea towel. So hopefully you got a tea towel, ideally not a bath towel, nothing too thick, because you'll see in a second why. So I'm sitting back a little bit so you can see me. So you're gonna hold on to the corner. So see how this is the corner piece. So hold on to the corner of the fabric in one hand like so. So with the thumb and the index finger to start. You're letting the fabric hang down and your fingers and palms are facing down as well. So you're letting gravity sort of make this more challenging for you. Okay, with the fabric hanging down, we're gonna do our scrunching of the towel up. Remember this one, scrunching of the towel from last week, trying to get all the fingers involved, keeping the fingers and palms facing down. So we're not doing this. We're not catching, right? We're not cheating by doing this. We're starting with the corner and we're pulling the fabric up, almost like you're sucking something up with your palms. So you're pulling the fabric up into as small of a ball as possible. And then when you can't go anymore, you're going to throw the fabric up in the air and catch it with the other hand, not the same hand, other hand. And you're going to fidget your way back to a corner piece. And then exactly the same thing. You're scrunching this towel up into your hand, into as small of a ball as possible, trying to get all the fingers involved. Then when you can't go anymore, you're going to throw, catch with the opposite hand, and fidget your way back to a corner piece. Now, you can probably see why you want a thin fabric and something small. Because imagine if you're using a bath towel, you're probably not going to get very far because your palm will be full of fabric relatively quickly. So the smaller the fabric, the thinner the fabric, the easier it is. But of course, if you want a challenge for yourself, you can go for a thin fabric with a slightly larger one like this. So if it's like a face cloth, it'll probably be a little too easy because you'll do, you know, a few scrunches and then it's all up in your hand already. Where something like this, where it's hanging down and there's more length to the fabric, it's probably a little bit harder. But thin, you're going for thin fabrics. Throw, catch with the other hand and fidget your way back to a corner piece. I'm being nice with this one, no cognitive task. So we mentioned last week that if this is really tough to do it freehand like this, you are welcome to use your shirt or your table, something to rest your fabric on to then scrunch against that object, because it will be a little bit easier. Because once you have this on something and you're scrunching on top, the fabric doesn't move. Whereas if I'm like this and I'm pulling it up, as soon as you open your hand to then grab more fabric, sometimes you'll find the fabric will fall back out. And so it's a little bit harder this way. And hence why you want all the fingers and the thumb to work and not just 2 fingers and having all of your other fingers stuck underneath the fabric. You want to make sure your fingers are on top of the fabric every time. How are we doing with this one? Hopefully okay. So remember, this doesn't have to be fast. You don't have to go as quick as you can. You're not racing against anybody. You're welcome to go a little slower. I just want you to try to make the finger movements bigger. So if you're like this and they're barely moving, go slower, move bigger. Always try to get all the fingers and the thumb on top of the fabric, okay? So don't let any fingers get stuck underneath the fabric and then we're only using 2 fingers to pull the rest up. Let's give you another minute here. I know this one can be a bit frustrating sometimes, especially if you're finding that the scrunching is taking a while or it's a little bit challenging for you, but that's okay. Keep working on it. Whoops. Okay, and rest. Okay, let's put this towel away for now. And then what we're gonna do here is we are going to grab hold of our cup and then our pegs. So let me just move the screen down. Okay, move it back a little bit so you can see. Okay, so I've got a cup. It's just the empty paper cup that I'm using. And I've got my pegs here. So we're going to start with the pegs on one side because we're going to start with one hand. Doesn't matter what hand, we're going to do both anyway. You can hold on to the cup with the other hand just so it doesn't move around. But of course, if you can do without the hand, even better, probably more challenging. But if you can, that's great. Okay, so last time, you'll probably remember we clipped the pegs onto the cup and then we put all of them on and then we took them all off again. Yes, you probably remember that. Okay. So last time, we weren't being very specific about what we were doing exactly with our fingers. So today, we're going to be more specific. We're going to take our hand, and what we're going to start with here is we're going to start with the index finger and the thumb. like this, index finger and the thumb. No other fingers are touching the peg, just the index finger and the thumb to clip onto the cup rim. Index finger and the thumb to clip onto the cup rim. Remember, we're not turning the cup, right? We want to keep it in this one orientation. So then you're conforming the shape of your hand, the twist of your wrist, to get all the way around the cup rather than turning the cup such that we always clip onto the same spot. So index finger and thumb. And then when you're done, same thing, index finger and thumb to unclip all of the pegs. Okay, once you've done that, we're now going to do middle finger and thumb, like this, middle finger and thumb, clipping it on to the cup ring. You don't have to go fast. I'm just doing a little faster because I want to show you the overall movement. Okay, and then once you've got it all clipped on, taking it off again with the middle and the thumb, middle finger and the thumb. The other fingers shouldn't be touching the pegs. And then when you're done, we're moving on. So we're not going to do the ring finger or the little finger separately. You're going to go ring finger and little finger together with the thumb because those ones are a little bit harder. And usually it's unlikely you would really ever use them without each other anyway. So we're going to do, so see here, I've got, oops. So see here, I've got my ring finger, little finger, and thumb, right? All in one, and the other two fingers are not involved. So that includes picking up the peg. So you don't want to pick up with your whole hand and then try to fidget your way there. Use only these three fingers to pick up the peg. And try to conform the shape that way. All the way around the cup. And then, same thing, taking it off again with the thumb, ring, and little finger. All the way off the rim of the cup. Hopefully that makes sense. And then you restart from the beginning again, same hand, index and thumb only, right? Index and thumb only, all the way on, and then take it off with the index and ring, index and thumb, and then the next one over, the ring finger and the thumb, clipping all the way up, taking it all the way off, then ring, little finger and thumb, all the way up, taking it off. So you can start in your own time. Hopefully that all makes sense. No rush on this. Take your time as needed. You're not racing against anybody. And of course, the level of difficulty will really depend on the pegs that you have as well. So if you have a less resistive peg, it'll be easier than if you had something that was maybe a little bit heavier duty. Not that mine is heavy duty, but I just mean as in terms of the spring, if it's more heavy duty, you will, oops, wrong finger, you will find that it's a little harder. So if you find that your current pegs are not challenging enough, you can look for other types of pegs that might have a little more spring to them, or sorry, a little stiffer spring to them. And then, or if you find it too difficult, you are welcome to look for a lighter spring peg. Nothing fancy. These ones I've gotten here are from the dollar store. After you do your middle and your thumb, you're doing your ring finger, little finger, and your thumb. All the way around the cup. Remember, we're not turning the cup, right? Because we don't want to place the pegs on the same angle every time. You want to work your way around the cup. So you're changing the shape of your hand, changing the orientation of your wrist. If you find that it's too much for you, you are welcome to have a rest. You can open and close your hands a few times, shake it out, stretch it out, whatever you need, and then come right back in if you can. Remember, this can be at your own speed. It doesn't have to match mine or anybody else's speed. Okay, shake it out for a second. Let's move on to the other hand. So we'll just move the pegs over to the other hand and then the cup over to your the hand that you just used. You're welcome to shake out your hand if you like. And then we'll do the same thing, starting with the index and the thumb to clip the pegs onto the cup. Remember, we're not turning the cup, right? Because we don't want to clip onto the same spot every time. You want to keep the cup down in one orientation, so then you're using your hand to move around the rim. And then you're taking it off again with the same hand, so your index and thumb. And then moving on to your middle finger and your thumb. And when you're done with your middle finger and thumb, you're doing your ring finger, little finger, and thumb. So all three together. Remember, even when you're picking up the pegs, we're not using the whole hand and fidgeting. We're using the fingers that you're trying to use to pick up the pegs as well. Okay, and then same thing from the beginning. How are we doing with this one? Hopefully good. A quiet chat box is always good. It means you're concentrating. Hopefully, and that you're not asleep. Hopefully your pegs didn't go flying as well. Do another minute of this. Okay, let's stop there and we'll put those pegs away. And we're going to grab hold of our cushion. Last exercise before we do our writing practice. Okay, so last time when we had our cushion, we were doing a long finger grip like this. So my fingers are nice and long and my thumb is nice and long. So essentially it looked like this. So that's the grip that we're going. So imagine crab pincers. That's what you're aiming for. Okay, so we start at the bottom. And what we did last time was we kept our elbows relatively still, and we basically, in slow motion, if you look at this hand, I opened, let the pillow drop down with gravity, and then I pinched at the top again. So using that same pincer grip, so I'm not curling my fingers, keeping everything long, okay? And then we moved down, and then we did the same thing. So today, same thing, but a little bit more challenging. We're going to open, catch at the top, and then we're going to throw and catch at the bottom. So notice that I'm still in this long finger grip. So I'm not doing this. I'm keeping those fingers nice and long, nice and together. Imagine crab pincers. Drop, hold on to the top. Same thing. I'm throwing it upwards vertically to then catch at the bottom with that same long finger grip. So imagine crab pincers. That's what you're aiming for. Join me here if you can. Whoops. If you can, try to keep those elbows relatively relaxed. Hopefully we're not like this. You want it to come from just the hand as much as possible. Don't let the fingers curl, keep them long. How are we doing with this one? Hopefully good. Keep those fingers long if you can. Keep them squeezing in together. A few more. And rest, shake out your hands. You can put that cushion away. Okay, now we're going to need our writing sheet. Let me, actually, yeah, I think you can see here. I will use a highlighter here just so you can see the color a little bit better. But when you're using it at home, you can use a pen, pencil, whatever you like. So here's my paper. You can see that they're just normal lined pieces of paper, but I've drawn new margins. So you can see that I got 1, 2, 3. So 3 normal lines are put into one giant line. Yes? So last time we had 4, today we are doing 3. So I'm actually going to turn it around because there's a bit of a dent here. Oh, actually, no, I think this will be okay. You can see that better. Okay. So I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to work my way down. So just like last time, When you're doing your handwriting, you are aiming to touch the top and the bottom margins every single time, okay? If you're doing a small letter, then the middle and bottom margin you need to touch. So the middle margin, the dashed lines, becomes your top margin. Does that kind of make sense? So you want to always touch your top and bottom margin as you're writing. And you can write whatever you want today. We can do sentences. So as an example, I'm going to write backwards. So excuse me if the letters are written a little funny. Okay, so for example, I can say today. You can see I'm touching the top and bottom margin is, oh, I think I threw the S backwards. There we go, is June 21st. To think about this S. I think I threw that S backwards again, but that's okay. 21st, 2022. Okay, so you can see, I think I drew the S's backwards, but anyway, you get the idea. Today is June 21st, 2022. You can write whatever you like, but it's a mix of big letters and small letters and numbers, and you're trying to touch the top and bottom margin every single time. So you can see the O, A, and Y are small letters. So you're touching the middle and the bottom margin. Oh, thank you, Vicky. Yes, my J is backwards again. I'm writing upside down, so you have to excuse me, but you get the idea. Keep going. You can write whatever you like. It does not have to be fast, okay? I'd rather you go slower and touch the margins, and then as you get better, you can go a bit faster. My backwards writing is a little awful today. Aim for the margins. So you get the idea, top and bottom margin. If it's small letters, you're touching the middle and the bottom margin. I have to think about that G for a second. I heard your voice, Vicky, saying that it's backwards. So any sentences you want, doesn't have to be anything specific. My writing's deteriorating as we're going. But you get the idea all the way down the page. You're touching the top and bottom margin. Yes, some of my letters are backwards because I had to write upside down, so you can ignore that. But you're aiming for top and bottom margin every time, and our margins have gotten smaller since the last week. So you can see that you start large and then you slowly work your way towards being able to write smaller and smaller by using the top and bottom margin. Because part of the issue with the handwriting becoming one single line that's not legible is because of bradykinesia kicking in, where the faster you go, the smaller the amplitude is of that movement, which includes handwriting. And so when you use a visual target like this, it's much easier to control your movement because it's almost like an amplitude practicing exercise. Like with any other Parkinson's exercise you do that's amplitude specific, this is very similar. You're using a visual target to help you write bigger, and then eventually you can write quicker, but you're still aiming for the amplitude. So even though the faster you go, the smaller the writing might be, but if you change the way you're thinking about it, and rather than concentrating on the speed, but you're going for the amplitude instead of touching the top and bottom margin, you can actually write faster without the writing then getting smaller. So this is what you're aiming for. So something like this, okay? So today we did 1, 2, 3. We did 3 little lines. So you can see here, you can see 1, 2, 3. There's 3 little lines that we made into one gigantic line. And so for next week, what I want you to get ready, I didn't finish this entire sheet, but what I want you to have is now lines that go from big to small, small to big, big to small, small to big. So I want you to prepare a sheet like this. And what I did was the big side, you can see here, I went 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 lines for the big part, and then they get decreased down to 1 line. Can you see that? So from 3 lines to 1 line, and then from 1 line to 3 lines. It doesn't have to be that exactly. You can just take a piece of paper and draw it from big to small, small to big, and etc. But the point here is we're changing the margin now. So as you're writing, you're practicing then getting it smaller, and then getting it bigger, getting it smaller, getting it bigger. So if you can have a sheet like this ready for next time, for next class, that would be very helpful, because then we'll have that sheet ready and we can practice that, okay? Good. Okay, well, that's it. That's it for today. You're welcome to shake out your hands, squeeze them out, rub them, whatever you need to do to just let them uncramp if you're feeling a little bit more crampy in the hands. But hopefully that all makes sense. And let me know if you have any questions. The recording will be up on the YouTube channel, hopefully this time next week. So you can have a look at the exercises again if you would like. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I try not to talk as much today, so hopefully that helped. Oh, thank you, Donna. Yes, I am getting married in July. So hence why the hand dexterity workshop is a little shorter this time. I'm one of those COVID couples and just want to get over with at this point. Okay, great to hear, Diane. Very good. I'm glad it's been helping. Excellent. Good to hear about you being able to do buttons. Excellent. Good. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Keep practicing. Oh, yes. I hope that it is going to get warmer. It has been pretty cold here. I'm in Coquitlam in the lower mainland. So hopefully, I mean, it's supposed to be summer, but you know, it's a bit late this year. All right, everybody, thank you very much. See you next week. Remember to get your sheet ready with the 3 lines into the 1 line, or you don't have to worry about the 3 to 1. Just go from big to small, then small to big, and etc., etc. Okay, thanks, everybody. See you next week. Bye for now.